بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين ومن والاه ومن لم يوالي هذا الرسول فليترك أو يصمت. This is only for information purposes. We're actually explaining still my book, which is the Quran versus the people. The Quran يتحدى الناس. The Quran is still challenging, the biggest challenge on earth anyway. Now we come across number 6, the intellectual wars, 52, page 52. Critics of the Quran, there's a lot of budgets out there that deal with just, I'll give you the money and write a book about Islam, and people are jumping onto it. Came across John Wansbrough. His book is called, infamous book is called, and it is very criticized by all Muslims. It is praised by the Western societies because it criticizes the Quran, and as if the Western world was waiting for someone like John Wansbrough. It's called Quranic Studies, Sources and Methods and what's going on. It's on archive.org. You can download it. I've actually downloaded it. And what he uses is something like, I'm a scholar. Wrote it around 1970. It was answered by Al-Azhar al-Sharif, but unfortunately we do not read. And there was no social media. There was no Facebook. We had to actually wait 70 years after that. 1970s, 30 to 40 years. Get Facebook and then answer back. Al-Azhar al-Sharif answered them back, but still, people jumped on this new idea. The whole idea, in 2 words, that there was no Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is insult. I think insult to injury. He's offended me. But this is an intellectual war. We go in by, well, you say this, I say that. You say this, I say that, and that's how it is. And the Quran was basically forged during the Abbasid era, like 300 after. Like when was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed in 611 AD. So he says it was maybe forged during Muqatil bin Sulaiman, which is Zaydi Imam who basically wrote the Quran and explained it, tafsir. We don't take Muqatil bin Sulaiman, it's full of Israelites, which means text that is taken from the Bible and the Torah, heaps of it. The only one who praised it was Sayyidina Shafi'i rahimahullah, and Sayyidina Shafi'i radhiyallahu anhu is an imam. What he sees is not what I see and what you see, and the Joe blogs on the ground. Like I'll tell you one thing, Sayyidina Shafi'i took it from the Quran. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. That's why we have qunut. Al-Arifi says, no, bid'ah. No, it's not bid'ah. This is tatawul ala Sayyidina Shafi'i. This is basically, he's insulted Sayyidina Shafi'i also. I'm a Shafi'i. So John Wansbrough came up and he uses in his narration, I can see here on my screen even, I'll just read you some. He uses like a lot of Arabic in between the sentences. He uses a lot of Hebrew. He uses a lot of Latin, like to the narratio. I'm a scholar. The Sira lexical problems. There's problems with Sira Rasulullah. There's problems. Okay, Subhanallah. And then he writes also like the eloquent proof. And then Muqatil bin Sulaiman. He always quotes Muqatil bin Sulaiman, because his hujjah, his reasoning is Muqatil bin Sulaiman. Muqatil bin Sulaiman basically lived, say, 80, 90 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he reckons that was the Quran, and then it was forged by the Abbasid and became a religion. Well, basically, we created the ghost, walayadu billah, called Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulullah, and we followed the ghost. What is wrong with you people? Anyway, intellectual wars. That's all it is. Okay. 1970, he wrote the book. Al-Azhar basically answered him back. Doesn't matter. He always concentrates on ayat al-tahaddi, which is basically the verses that challenges the human beings. And a lot of them I used to quote, which is when kuntum fi raybin mimma nazalna fa'tu bi suratin min mithli fa in lam tasru walan taf'alu. You won't be able to. So there's a challenge. There's also am yaquluna taqawwalahu. Did they say, that's Quraysh, we're accusing of a Prophet ﷺ by saying, maybe he came up with this. Well, if he came up with this, why won't you come up with something else similar to it? And they couldn't, because he didn't. He's wahyan yuha. It's revelations from who? Jibreel alayhi salam, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And قُلْ لَإِنْ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ. Even if the human beings and the jinni came together to come up with something like it, they wouldn't. These are called the challenging verses. And they still stand upon. What really was a staggering blunder in this, when I read John Wansbrough, I couldn't see the similarities between him. Like that was in 1970. There was a new program called Islam, the Untold Story Wow. All of us Muslims, when we hear about this, we go on TV. Did you hear about this? There's the untold story. Nothing new. Tom Holland, the new genius around the block. He's not a genius or anything. We're just, mocking. They mock us. We mock them. That's the intellectual war that happens anyway. Denies that there's a Quran in the 6th century. You deny the 6th century Quran, you deny the Torah, because we came and confirmed the Torah. You deny the Torah, you deny the Bible. You deny Jesus, you deny Moses. No, all of us are here. We believe in the Torah. And why do we believe in the Torah? It happened to know this. The Israelites are there. They do exist. So we Muslims, yes, we do believe. We do believe in Torah. We do believe in Injil, Bible, and we do believe in the Quran. We do believe in Judaism, yes. Yahud, they'll have to be there. You can't get rid of them. You can't get rid of Christians. You can't get rid of Muslims. 3 religions are still there. So he comes in, and the study of Islam came basically also by Daniel Pipe's website. I'm not sure if he's the administrator or whatever. Regardless of this, by someone called Dhimmi No More. Wow, he doesn't want to be a Dhimmi. Dhimmi means Ahl Dhimma. You're part of my family. We're actually elevating you. You're part of my family. We take care of you. Doesn't mean what people think that we put them as second-class citizen. No, you're not second-class citizen. Anyway, regardless of all this, Wansbrough also emphasizes the style of the Quran, that there's a lot of repetition. Sayyidina Muhammad Mutawalli Sha'rawi radiyallahu anhu is the renewer of Islam of last century. He's from Egypt. He said it's not repetition, but it's basically confirming. For example, first it says for the story of Sayyidina Adam, creation of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. إن مثل عيسى عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال. Basically, he tells you that he was dust, and in other ayat salsal, which is mud, and then in another ayah it says, and Allah is like he blows the ruh into him, the spirit into him, and he becomes alive. So these are the stages of Adam, just like the stages of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. It is scattered all around the Quran, and I have. For Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, I have a full image here of how it is. In one of these pages, I'll come to it later. In Mu'jiz al-Quran, I'm gonna start explaining why is the Quran a miraculous book and why is it challenging. It's coming through. That is if I live. That is, if I don't live, then hey, dude, if you can buy the book and understand it, okay, that's really good. John Wansbrough basically comes in and he emphasizes that chapter 12 is not part of the Quran. Wow, okay, you're not the first one to say that, dude. Which is really mind-blowing. If you're an Orientalist, you should read everything that was read. Because Al-Milal al-Nihal, for Shahristani, he wrote about the denominations of the Muslims. And that book is more than 800 years old. He wrote Al-Azariqa, I think Al-Azariqa was some kind of Kharijites. They also said that Surah Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, which is chapter 12, is not part of the Quran because it's a qissa, it's a story. And the Kharijites went even a step further than Wansbrough and said, if we were given more time, we would come up with something like the Quran. Okay, good luck with that, dude. Good luck with that. The second thing is, you have to understand, he didn't mention any of Al-Azariqa. I didn't see. Maybe it was written there. I've actually read it. I've skimmed through it. That was more than 4 years ago when I read it. I was laughing. Every Muslim is encouraged to read that book to laugh. And naturally, Surah Sayyidina Yusuf is different in theme because it's like a qisas. Then even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end, He says that we actually give you the best of stories. And chapter 12 is like the story of Joseph alayhi salam. The other thing that he missed out on was the repetition. I'm going to repeat again, doesn't matter. Sayyidina Muhammad Mutawalli Sha'rawi is basically confirming Sayyidina Adam was created, lived in heaven, and then events happened, took from the tree, the forbidden tree, sent to earth. It is all scattered in the Quran. It's not repetition. But if you translate that in English, it would appear like it's repeated, but it's not repeated. Anyway, a few things, a few major problems that was not solved by Mr. Wansbrough and those who love him, and even Tom Holland, who thinks he's a genius. He found a way that the Quran is not the, you know. The Quran was revealed within 23 years, within the life of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It did, John Wansbrough will have to really explain. The Arabs war and spread in Yamama, the Hurub al-Rida. Why did it happen? If it went for the Quran. And the Quran was basically the constitution of the Arab. It changed overnight. How could a nation change within 23 years without getting something? It's definitely the Quran that changed them. That's one. Two, Arabs spread to Persia and Rome. Dude, what was the logical thing of going to Rome and Persia? Two big empires. There was a miracle there. You'll have to agree that there was a miracle there. They took on two empires. Some Arab dwellers in the desert, the Romans would have wiped them out. There was a miracle. And what was the miracle? And why did this happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised Sayyidina Rasulullah. That was in the Battle of the Trench, Ghazwatul Khandaq. When he came across, everybody knows the story, when Rasulullah sallallahu came across a rock and then he struck it 3 times and he was given basically the Sham and Persia. Everybody knows the story. Invading Jerusalem, also kicking out the Romans. Why Jerusalem? What's so significant about it? Masjid al-Aqsa. There you go. And it wasn't as some people think, like, some Arab dwellers came in and they took them in, like took us in as Muslims and all this because they pitied us. No, that's not true. What happened to Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid, Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, Sayyidina Abdullah bin all of those people, Abdullah, even Mu'ta. What's the use of Mu'ta? All this, the Quran was revealed and they were doing by the constitution of the Quran. The other thing amongst all these changes happened in Mecca too was the leadership that slipped from Banu Abd Shams to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. And who was Abu Bakr Siddiq? He wasn't from Banu Abd Shams and wasn't from Banu Hashim. He became the Khalifa. Why? He became the Khalifa because he knew the Quran, the whole Quran. The Quran basically was the main constitution of those Arabs. And it slipped from Banu Abd Shams to Sayyidina Abu Bakr. And then from that, from who? From Sayyidina Abu Bakr to Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab. Sayyidina bin Khattab was nobody. He's from Bani Adi. Bani Adi didn't have any significance. You'll have to really explain. You'll have to rewrite the whole history, man. Why did it slip from Sayyidina Abu Bakr? It was slipped from Bani Abd Shams to Sayyidina Abu Bakr, from Sayyidina Abu Bakr to Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab. Abu Sufyan was still there. And all of those big wigs in Mecca were there. Why didn't it go to Abu Sufyan, for example? You'll have to understand that part of history. Was the Quran? If it went for the Quran, no. They had the Quran. They were the Muslims. They were the Khulafa. More or less, you'll have to understand the character of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam within these 23 years. And the existence of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Explaining all this, actually, the scholars, I'm going to say, taking only the tafsir, the explanation of the exegesis from Muqatil bin Sulaiman is unfair. This is like someone I came across and he said, we'll have to, we have to as Muslims, mashallah, to bring a piece of paper that's dated in the 6th century that has the Quran of today. I looked at him and I said, are you stupid or something? What are you, a billy goat? Tess? We have to prove that. Man, I bet you, even if you find a piece of paper of the Quran during those days, it wouldn't be the same as today, because there was nasikh and mansukh. Anyone could have heard some of the Quran. What? Some people said Surah Al-Mumtahina, or one of those chapters, was 200 verses. Now it's about 70. So some of them, like, you have to understand. All of the. I'm coming to this later to explain it, inshallah, if I actually live through this. John Wansbrough denied the existence of Rasulullah ﷺ and the Quran those days. Al-Ahkam was taken from the Quran. You'll have to understand that the state before the Abbasid wasn't canonized during the Abbasid, and the Quran wasn't made up during Sayyidina Al-Malik bin Abdul Malik bin Marwan, which is Bani Umayyah. Because the Sahaba used to take Al-Ahkam from the Quran, they used to listen to the Quran and see what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. And that built the constitution. These were the building blocks. There's no other way. You'll have to understand it that way. You can't come up with a new theory saying, oh, there was no Mecca, Tom Holland says there was no Mecca. Mecca was in Petra. We should call the Jordanian government. Hello, Jordanian government. Guess what? Mecca was in Jordan all this time, man. They'll laugh at you. Wallahi, they'll laugh at you. As John Wansbrough also book in the Quran aspect, I'm just gonna try and read here. It says chiseled and caves. He wanted, John Wansbrough is like any other Orientalist or scholar. He wanted the Quran to be chiseled in a cave or written on a book to believe this is the Quran and it happened, and they carbon date it. Yeah, okay, we agree this is the Quran. That's hogwash. The Quran was given orally from, you'll have to understand the isnad. This is very important. The chain of narrations. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to the Sahaba, to the Tabi'een, la Tabi'een, Tabi'een, la ihsan ila yawm al-din. The last thing about John Wansbrough, he couldn't get anything genuine. And what I found was, unfortunately, Muqatil bin Sulaiman is not the book to be taken in the very known book for Muhammad Hussein al-Dahabi, the Shaheed, who basically was killed by at-Takfir wal-Hijra in Egypt, and he was the minister also, and he was from Al-Azhar al-Sharif, very well known scholar. He wrote at-Tafsir wal-Mufassirun, and he does condemn Muqatil bin Sulaiman, because we do not take that tafsir as one of our main tafsirs. You'll have to listen to the isnad. There's a Tabari, Ibn Kathir, النسفي, Mujahid, Tafsir Mujahid. Sayyidina Shafi'i takes always وقال مجاهد وقال الثقة. There's a lot of tafsir over there, but they took that because I think there was a copy of that tafsir that was in full. So they said, well, that's the Quran, that it started there, which is around 690 AD, around 700 AD, around 700 AD, which is total false. I went back. My own, أنا الولد الرقيع. I'm equal nothing. I'm not a scholar. I started looking. Where could he have possibly got that kind of thing? And I found out that it was exactly trying to revive something new, to say that it wasn't there. Came across two people last century. One was Taha Hussein, scholar, very well known in literature, and the other one was Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i radiyallahu anhu warda. Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i wrote 3 books. The third book was completed by his student. One book was about Mu'jizat al-Quran, and one, I think, al-Shi'r al-Jahili or something like that. But Taha Hussein wrote fi Shi'r al-Jahili, something about the Shi'r al-Jahili. Shi'r al-Jahili is one of our sources. Shi'r al-Jahili is basically the poetry before Islam. So we call it Shi'r al-Jahili, and it's considered one of the sources. Taha Hussein went to Paris. He continued. He was basically blind. He continued his studies in Al-Azhar, went to Paris and gained fame, came back again, and he wanted to become a revivalist and renewer of Islam. And he wrote a book called Fi Shi'r al-Jahili, which is basically, he said, Shi'r al-Jahili manhul. And what does manhul mean? It took me a year to find out. Manhul means the Shi'r al-Jahili wasn't made before Islam. It was made after, and the Muslims agreed that it was before Islam. Now, Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i also never continued his studies. He had typhoid when he was young, infected his ears. He lost his hearing completely at the age of 30. But before that, his mom and dad took him out of school, and he ravished his father's library. He had a beautiful library with Arabic text, tafsir, Quran, everything. He ate it all up. Imagine, he's a genius in the making, that guy. I'm a great fan of him. He heard what Taha Hussein said, so he started writing against him in articles in the newspaper. And they both had this argument, intellectual warfare. This was an intellectual warfare. And he started writing, Ya Taha Hussein, what you're trying to do is basically to renew Islam. Islam cannot be renewed, man. You can renew Islam Islamic way, not by abrogating whatever things that you want. You're trying to Europeanize it or Westernize it or something like that. And the battle ensued. I've got his book. It's called Under the تحت راية القرآن, under the Quran banner. He was so famous that even Zawahiri from Al-Qaeda, he wrote a book and called it تحت راية النبي, under the Prophet's banner. Everybody is trying to look like those people, those geniuses. So anyway, Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i answers back to Hussein, and everybody agrees with Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i. He even gives him a story. You're exactly like that little fish that swims in a brook and said, oh, this is my brook, and then swims in a river, and then says, oh, this is my river and my ancestors' river, and then swims into the lake and says, that's my lake. At the end, it reaches the sea. It get caught by a fisherman. He says, oh, I regret. Too late, dude, you're dead. And he says, Ta Hussein, this is you. And at the same time, he gives us a story about those mujaddideen, those who want to renew Islam. Everybody is now want to renew Islam, make it. They want to remove the hijab, they want to remove the tahrim al-khamr al-zina, and make it all modern. Okay, good luck with that, dude. So he says, you're exactly like a story. The Arabs, we have to remember, the Arabs was like Europe today, with all of these intellects and everything. And Europe was like, I keep on saying Yemen, Ya Ikhwani, Ya Habibi. Seriously, I'm going to keep on saying Yemen and Somalia and the bloody strife over there. Yeah. So one of them was called Abu Khalid al-Numayri. Abu Khalid al-Numayri was a Persian. And the Arabs were, just like today, we love going to England and coming back with an accent. I met a Pakistani once. Allahumma aslih hal al-Muslimin, Ya Allah, Ameen. Every time I talk to him, he pulls an accent. Dude, why won't you just speak English, man? Habibi, I understand. Habibi, please, brother, just speak English, man, as it is. No, he's trying to pull an accent. Wallahi, I couldn't understand anything. By the God of Kaaba, I couldn't understand anything. But he wants to be an Englishman. Abu Khalid al-Numayri did the same thing. He went to Basra, and then after that, he went for 2 weeks in the Bedouin to learn Arabic. Came back, and Basra had a lot of rain those days. Global warming wasn't there. So when it used to rain, they used to put water spills, and the water spill is known as, in Arabic, there is called mazarib, mizrab, mazarib. I put the story there too. So when he came back, he said kharatim, khartoum, kharatim, khartoum, which means trunk, because he's a Persian. They're very, it's common to see an elephant in Persia. They love, the elephants and all this. Not like the Arab, an elephant is something new. They've never seen it, except for Amil Fil. So he wanted to act like an Arab. He said, what are these kharatim? What are these trunks? We don't have them where I come from. They said, oh, Abu Khalid al-Numayri. These are mazarib, bro, not kharatim. So he wanted to show that he's an Arab. We found that he wasn't. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Today we have a lot of those, Abu Khalid, Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i says, there's a lot of those who go to France and come back and go, yeah, je suis, oh, c'est trop. Really? Mashallah. They go to England and come back with an accent. Dude, you can't be ashamed of whom you are. You are who you are. Seriously, why do you have to be ashamed of yourself? Seriously. So unfortunately, we have this blind copycat. We always copycat like blindly. And now it's affecting our religion, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, and Allah al-Musta'an. And this is the story of John Wansbrough. He's no scholar. But people are going to jump on John Wansbrough and start taking everything you see now is a reflection of what John Wansbrough said. And this is just, it's not on. Wallahu al-Musta'an, wassalamu alaikum, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal-mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.